then I'm not ready to be in a relationship with a woman. In fact, that's how it used to be in the old days. You have to make enough money to be able to support a woman, or you really shouldn't be in a relationship with a woman if you cannot support her. Almost all people would argue is a stronger family dynamic. Now, some people will say, oh, that's not possible in modern society today. Everything is too expensive. In which case it's like, well, then maybe you're not ready to start a family. She will be taken care of, right? Whether her father or family or,
or herself.
Or herself. But a woman doesn't have to worry as much about that as a man does. A man does have to outcompete other men. The thing about it, though, is being the man, it means assuming, we talked about last episode about being the captain of the ship, okay? So if I'm the captain of the ship and I'm steering the ship, all right, and I'm responsible for the ship and I'm responsible for everything, then I have to be accountable, which means that I have to be the one that is financing the operation. I have to be the one that I can't have it. I can't have the authority without the responsibility. And the responsibility means taking care of everybody on the ship. It means making sure that financially everything is taken care of. It means doing all of those things. And so you can't really have that authority, because as a man, I do expect in a relationship to be the authority. I do expect that as a man to be able to be the leader. And if I'm not paying for everything, if I'm not taking care of everything from a financial perspective, then how can I really assume that role, right?
So what if you couldn't provide?
Then I'm not ready to be in a relationship with a woman. In fact, that's how it used to be in the old days. You have to make enough money to be able to support a woman, or you really shouldn't be in a relationship with a woman if you cannot support her. I believe that, because again, the same guys that will argue against what I'm saying right now, because I know a lot of guys get upset about my viewpoint on this, they complain about single mothers, and they complain about single mother households and women raising weak men. And the thing about that is that or women not being there to raise their kids. Well, in order for a woman to be there to raise her kids, a man has to be able to provide enough for the entire family so that she doesn't have to work. And there's nothing wrong with women working, and women can do a great job. But the thing is that it's more beneficial for a family if there's one sole provider and you have one caregiver who's able to take care of the children and be the nurturer, right? And that's why that family dynamic is one that almost all people would argue is a stronger family dynamic. Now, some people will say, oh, well, that's not possible in modern society today. Everything is too expensive. In which case it's like, well, then maybe you're not ready to start a family. Maybe you're not ready to get married.
But what if they're never ready?
Then, hey, as a man, life is hard. As a man, you're always in competition with other men. There's never going to be a time as a man where you're just going to be a woman's life is different than a man's life. And there's
women are always in competition with other women as well too, in society.
In a different way, right? A man has to be able to survive on his own, and he's not really a man if he can't take care of himself and take care of other people. A woman doesn't have that same issue. A woman, she will be taken care of, right? Whether her father or family or
herself.
Or herself. But a woman doesn't have to worry as much about that as a man does. A man does have to outcompete other men, and he has to be able to provide. And so it is, to me, it is part of being a man is to be able to provide. And if you go back to even like the tribal days and, if you go back in time, like our evolutionary heritage, right? A man in a tribe that could not sustain himself, let's say a hunter that could not kill enough to provide for his own, that he would be a detriment to the tribe, right? He would be worthless because he has to be fed by other people. Other people have to take care of him. The man's supposed to be, he not only has to be able to hunt enough to provide for his own needs, but he needs to be able to provide extra for the women and the children who are not hunting, right? And that's, I know it sounds weird to put it that way, but things haven't really changed from that.
Well, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
That might be hard for you to answer, but okay. So if you think that a man providing everything is the right way, what advice would you give to women dealing with dating in a society where it is mostly men who want to do 50-50? And I do believe that.
Yeah, to two things. One, be humble. Okay. Because the problem with demanding that a man pay for you without humility is that then it comes across as taking advantage. But if you're humble, you shouldn't have the expectation that he will pay for you.
Right.
However, you should have the standard that he will. So it's a way of evaluating. You're letting the guy, you're giving him rope, let him hang himself. If a guy wants you and he's going to be a 50-50 guy, you're finding out a lot of information about him, right? A good guy, the kind of guy that's masculine that you want to be in a relationship with, he's going to insist on paying for you, and he's going to do it in a discreet way. I always tell guys, look, all you have to do is this, because a lot of women might resist against you paying for it. When the bill comes, you're having your conversation, the waiter drops the bill on the table, you just casually pull out your wallet, whatever, take your credit card while you're still having the conversation, just slip it in there and just push it to the side. That's it. Okay, that's the slick way of doing that. You're not making a big deal of it. You're not like, oh, look, I'm paying for this, so you know what that means tonight. You're not trying to bargain or make any transaction. It's just because you're the gentleman, right? In fact, not only that, but most of the time the guy's inviting the woman out for a date, right? If I were to invite a friend out to go out to dinner, I would automatically be paying for it because I'm inviting someone out, right? That's just basic courtesy. That's just being a gentleman, right? So I would say to a woman, though, that don't have the expectation, don't get all upset, don't even bring up the subject of it. Be willing to pay, and then see what the man does, because it's a great test, and you can see what he's made of by that. You know, how did his mom raise him? What kind of values does he have? If he's going to be like, okay, well, you know, you had this drink and I had this drink, and so, you know, here we go. Let's split the check. It's not going to be. That's not the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I feel like as a woman who was dating before you came along, like it's hard to like wait for the right guy, because it is, and like I said, I wasn't necessarily looking for somebody to pay for everything for me. Like right. Like I mentioned, was happy with some dynamic that didn't feel like keeping score. Like, because keeping score in general is just not good.
Right.
Like it's with anything. And so I feel like it's a little hard for women to find, you know, someone who wants to provide for you. Like I said, you can still find somebody that like maybe can't pay for everything that you want and all your bills and all those things, but still can provide for you where you feel more appreciated and provided for than like someone who's so heavily 50-50. And the person who was so heavily 50-50 also, because this will kind of transition us into the next part of it. Yeah. Like we would make dinner at like either person's house, and like say it was at his house, he'd be like, so what are you making next time? Right. And I'm like, we can't even enjoy this experience without you being like, okay, so what are you going to do next? Right. And so like 50-50 can also be like an emotional or like, you know, other sort of relationship type of thing where there's still like tabs being kept, and there's still like this not fully coming together. It's almost like a roommate situation, or like I said, like more of like friends or like companions, when it's like everything's still pretty separated, including like the connection. Right. And I think that is what is the most detrimental of the 50-50, honestly, is that it can turn into such a like transactional thing in all the ways, not just financially, but in like emotions and like, you know, what you're giving. Like, I'm not going to give this because he didn't take out the trash, you know, like, so I'm going to act like this. Like that sort of like dynamic, I feel like you do see more with like the 50-50 split. Right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And in fact, I mean, we were just having this conversation this morning about that in terms of emotion, right? And in fact, guys complain to me all the time, right? They're like, it's not fair. Why does a woman get to vent all of her problems onto me, but I can't onto her, right? Which it seems like, okay, well, it seems like logical, like, okay, well, that makes sense. It should be equal in that way, but it's not, and it shouldn't be, because you're the man. as a man, you have a different set of responsibility than a woman does.
Better than